People see me as the CEO of MTN Nigeria and think about how successful the trajectory I've had. What you don't see is all the failures I've had along the way. Focus on what really matters, which is your results. Look, there's many decisive journeys. It's not one single trigger that leads to success. You're a combination of all the decisions that you make every single day. One of the most difficult and challenging things that I went through was the auction for the 5G spectrum. Very nerve-wracking. I don't ever want to attend the spectrum auction again.
What would you want to be remembered for? How can a young person distinguish him or herself in our society today? And how can that person build credibility? Because like you said, there's a lot of performance, right? Everybody wants to be known, everybody wants to sort of be the faces of people. But if you meet a young person, how can the person distinguish him or herself and build credibility? Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is hannahowopetu and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I have a very special guest, the Chief Executive Officer of MTN Nigeria, and I'm so excited to have this chat with him. I hope that you learn a bit or two from this conversation. Thank you. Good afternoon, Karl, and thank you so much for joining me. It's such an honor, actually. Okay, so my first question would be, you have been the CEO of MTN Nigeria for a while, but also of other operating countries as well, like Cameroon and all that. What would you say your journey has been, and what would you say was a defining moment in your career that has led you to this leadership position?
Okay, first of all, Hannah, thanks. It's a great pleasure and honor to be on your channel. As my king's lady, also from Odakeke. Now, we've given you to your husband who's from Malaysia. You should remember us, and we'll expect to collect continuous ties from him. But it's only 30 minutes away, so you're very close to home. Look, there's many decisive journeys. It's not one single trigger that leads to success. You're a combination of all the decisions that you make every single day. But there's a few things that have held true and steady for me personally. And that's a focus on what really matters, which is your results. I am not much about window dressing, telling a good story, great presentations. It always comes down to the results and clarity of thought. I think my decision to go into telecoms, mobile telecoms, when it just started across the world, it wasn't just in Nigeria, and to move down to Nigeria right at the start, actually a year before we started launching the services, when the auction was going on, was instrumental because I had a set of skills that wasn't yet commonplace in Nigeria. And so I was positioned to grow very quickly in that industry. That's probably one of the decisions.
Even though you've led other, countries and all that, right? For MTN Nigeria specifically, is there anything that has changed you while you did, one of the largest, the largest opco in the group, right? Has anything changed you, or what was something that was a failure that, became a blessing in disguise?
Look, people see me as the CEO of MTN Nigeria and think about how successful the trajectory I've had. And what you don't see is all the failures I've had along the way. And there are mistakes and errors I've made. There are operating companies that I've had oversight of where I didn't pick up on very important issues on time. And I think that has formed some of the approaches that I have towards managing an organization like this, in that I'm always looking for the bad news. I'm always looking for what I've missed in overseeing this. Now, MTN Nigeria has been through several transitions, and I'll speak to a few of them. We've had great successes. One of the most difficult and challenging things that I went through was the auction for the 5G spectrum. Very nerve-wracking. I don't ever want to attend the spectrum auction again. I attended that spectrum auction with Modupe Kadri as CFO, our then CTO, Mohamed Rukwai, who is now the CEO of MTN Congo, and Ikeme, who's the head of our regulatory function. And it was extremely nerve-wracking. We came out with the results in the last bit that we put in as we were walking out of the door. That really probably aged me by 20 years. So it's an interesting story for good success. We went through the negative equity challenges of 2023, 2024. And for some reason, I was always calm. And I think that calmness projected to the organization. and allowed us to continue to focus on the core operational issues in the business. Why was I calm? First of all, the negative equity situation was not of any making of the management team that I led. It was devaluation and some old previous commitments and contracts. And I knew if we lost sight of our operational performance, it would take us a lot longer to pull out of the negative equity. So I think those are two things which I think I would say are significant milestones, but it's still a work in progress. We're still a story being told. The next exciting thing is going to be the aggressive rollout of fiber and in Nigeria, and leading that. That's a huge behemoth challenge. Egerton is in charge of that function. He's the chief broadband officer. And I feel the pressure on that, but I enjoy the pressure and we're going to make it work.
Okay, thank you. But it was going to be my next question, that what were some of the decisions you made? Now MTN is, one of the most valuable companies in Nigeria, right? Coming from a negative balance sheet in 2023, which you've spoken to. But can you talk about maybe key decisions that helped MTN to pull through during that period that you made as a leader?
So, look, the first thing is I place an immeasurable amount of focus on the culture of the organization. I'm a firm believer that no individual, myself included, is that important that he cannot be replaced with the signature of a pen. And that for you to build an institution that really is great, you need people to be committed. The most important thing in making people feel committed to an organization is for them to feel that they're important and they can make a difference. So we've gone through a cultural transformation program, which will never stop. And what is the tenets of this cultural transformation program? We want to create a unique culture where people, no matter what they're from, their religions, their beliefs, the way they dress, they have dreads on their hair, they wear earrings, whatever it is that you do, we welcome you as part of MTN and we believe that you have something unique to contribute. We don't have a hierarchical culture, so all this Oga and somebody carrying my bag for me completely out of the question. I've encouraged anyone in the organization to challenge me and tell me that what I'm talking is utter rubbish and this is a better way to do this. So people really have a voice and they don't just feel, they can actually make a difference. If you're a level one, most junior staff in the organization, and there's something you feel that's going to that can contribute to us, we try and create that environment where you have the courage to stand up and say it in the most direct, frank way and pursue it until you get a result. And then we also create a culture where we know we are not perfect. We're never going to be perfect, but we're always going to make things better for our customers, for our society, for our staff, and for our shareholders.
Okay. I know that one of the mantras of MTN is that things always get better.
Exactly. That's the mantra of our culture change. Therefore, a few other decisions that we, and it's not I, it's we have made in MTN that supported us. One of them is we will never ever lag on technological advancement. So one of the big things that we did is we accelerated the rollout of our 4G, okay, very aggressively to take a strong leadership position there. When this 5G auction spectrum came up, we said, not no matter what, because there's a price at which it really doesn't make sense. And we were right at the limit of that price. But we will push and trying to ensure that we get this 5G spectrum and we roll out as quickly as possible. Because we believe that when technological transformations, shifts happen, if you're not at the forefront, you lose a significant advantage. And we've also tried to improve the relationship with both stakeholders and the public in general by doing a lot in giving back. And I don't think we speak enough about that. The Enugu Expressway is one of the projects that we've done. We continue to invest through the foundation. We are Nigerianizing the brand in our communication. We are making it youthful. We are making it exciting. So this is not a foreign company. And one of the other things that I said is that this company, we always would like different perspectives, people from that have multinational experience from South Africa, experience from Uganda, experience from Ghana, to work with us to bring a fresh set of ideas. But we have the full belief that Nigerians have all the skills, competence, ethics, discipline to make this the greatest company in Nigeria. And that philosophy is not limited to my role in Nigeria. When I was CEO in Cameroon, I had the exact same philosophy. I think I had one expatriate, but we in Cameroon, the team in Cameroon, really drove the performance of MTN Cameroon. So wherever I go, I believe the locals, the indigenes, have the mental capacity, discipline, and they just need to be motivated and held accountable, and they will perform amazingly well. So, I mean, I think we have about 5 expatriates in the entire MTN Nigeria. I'm very proud that's a Nigeria-led team. Another thing is really around gender balance. We've moved our gender in terms of staff strength from 34%, I think it's now 42%. 46% of our executive leadership team are women. So we're very proud of those. And those are decisions that we made that have little multiplier effects on the performance of the businesses.
Thank you so much, Carl. In fact, you already dove into the question I was going to ask, which is how MTN was positioning itself digitally. But you already spoke about the 5G and all of the other initiatives. But what are some of the other, things? I know that the cloud services is another thing that, is positioning MTN digitally. But what are some of the other, initiatives that maybe are in pipeline that we can, get involved or that already existing?
So the obvious one is our investment in our data center and the cloud services which we're going to sell in Naira to startups, to entrepreneurs, to businesses here. And the second one is the fiber to the home and the 5G rollout, which really gives people high-speed, low-latency connectivity to run their businesses. Another one is artificial intelligence. We want to be at the forefront of artificial intelligence in Nigeria. And I'm pushing extremely hard for us to have use cases that are not for nice technical show, but actually generate a significant business output in terms of upside, in terms of sales, personalized customer services, preventative maintenance, so we can detect and determine where the next outage is going to be and avoid it. And in terms of making our capital expenditure deployment more efficient, so we get the best returns for it. And beyond that, I am also very keen on transforming our customer services. Our customer services are decent, but we are not yet at the forefront and cutting edge. We should be able to have personalized customer services that understands even before you dial in what your challenges have been, what has frustrated you, and hopefully solve them even before you worry about it. So you buy a bundle, for some reason your data is not working. We want to use artificial intelligence to detect that and to fix the problem instantaneously. So this is in 10 seconds, so you don't have to call it a call center. We also want to make our interfaces with our consumers to be seamless and intuitive. So when you want to look for something on my MTN app, first of all, you should not take more than 1 or 2 steps because it's so intuitive. You know exactly how to look for it. We are putting right in front of you what we, through artificial intelligence, have determined is likely to be your most the offer, the solution, the roaming bundle, data bundle that you are most likely to desire, because we understand your profile really well. So transforming our customer interfaces, our customer services to a fully digitized, intuitive, predictive, based on your behavior solution is one of our key objectives.
Thank you so much, Carl. So my next question would be, what would you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be when all you said and done?
There's 2 things. One is making the people that work with around me achieve things that they never thought was possible and uplifting them through that. The second is I want to be measured by my results, not nice presentations, not speeches, not my absolute hardcore results. I'm very much a substance over form person. I look for the results. And then I would hope that in terms of impact to the society in Nigeria, and that's a very broad statement, digitization of our society, introduction of artificial intelligence, the taxes we pay, our contributions in multiple folds, developing people's skills, infrastructure, things like the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway. But really, what impact has MTN had on our society during the time that I've had the privilege to lead MTN?
Thank you. That's amazing. And I know you're already on that journey towards achieving that. So you will definitely be remembered for, imprinting, bringing digital solutions into, the country and I guess the all of Africa as well. So, talking about young people, right? I want you to, this segment would definitely be you, sort of giving counsel to young people and myself actually. So my first question would be, how can a young person distinguish himself in our society today? And how can that person build credibility? Because like you said, there's a lot of performance, right? Everybody wants to be known. Everybody wants to sort of, be the faces of people. But if you meet a young person, how can person, distinguish himself and build credibility?
I think there's one thing that you find in traits of all successful people, not one thing, a few things. Work ethic, discipline, um, focus. Trying to do 101 things all at the same time doesn't allow you to be a master of any particular skill. And one thing that I find a lot of people have missing is clarity of thought. What do I mean by clarity of thought? And I've seen all sorts of people make presentations, and the substance of what is behind that presentation is missing. What value does it create? So try and cut through the clutter and the fancy presentation and fancy speeches and put your finger on what exactly is this solution, this business proposition, this presentation trying to deliver. Too many people um, wrap their message in too many fancy words, and mostly that's because they don't have a clear, concise, valuable message. And then be courageous. If you really want to have an impact, you need to sometimes take the untrodden path and unpopular path. So I need a lot of courage for that.
Yeah, courage. Even as a Christian myself, I know that courage is something that, you know, is talked about often and often. And you see people that have sort of done great things, right? They were people who didn't even think that they could do of those things. So my next question to you would be, you've talked about some of the determinants of success, but irrespective of location or maybe society or even industry, what are some of the things that or policies that you'd say this person, if he or she has this, would be successful?
Yeah, it's somewhat a replica of what I said previously. It's courage, and it's clarity of thought. I see those two things in a person. I am very keen in what that person has to say. And of course, you have to demonstrate all the other things. But I like leaders around me that are courageous. Now, courageous doesn't necessarily mean outspoken, okay? Because we have a mix of people in leadership and people deliver their messages in different forms. I can be very annoying and very outspoken, but there are extremely variable people that are not as outspoken as I am. And I look for the different personality, the diversity in terms of mindset, personality, character, reaction to stress, etc. Sometimes you need a person that's going to explode under stress to wake up the organization. Sometimes you need a person that calms the organization down. And having that diversity around me is important. What I've also learned over the years is that I've learned myself and my weaknesses. So I try to build people around me that's counterbalance for my weaknesses. For example, I'm a very big picture person, and sometimes I miss out on details. So I love having detail conscious people around me. So having that balance of a variety of personalities around you is very important.
I'm sure you interact with young people, Gen Z, and maybe even millennials often, right? What are some of the mistakes you see young people make a lot, maybe consistently?
So first Gen Z, and most interactive Gen Z is my daughter. She's 25 years old. And of course we interact a lot. We have a lot of fights, but we always make up and go forward with that. So that's one. But you see, it's difficult for me to say they're making mistakes because I can't say I understand their own world as well as them. Okay? So if you take my prescription of what you need to do to work the journey to success, you have the success that was relevant 40 years ago, which is actually not success. The world has changed and it's changing so fast. I am struggling to keep up with the behavior of the Gen Z and the millennials to understand them, to know how to serve them. So I wouldn't, it's hard for me to say the mistakes that they make. Yeah, look, I mean, personally, I'm concerned about the the impact that social media can have on standards, expectations, and mental health for the youth. I think our generation, and it's because we don't have that social media, had a lot more tenacity and what's the right word? That word has gone right out of my mind now. Tenacity, resilience, than we had. But they're in a different world. So to try and prescribe to them how to manage their world is as difficult as my parents prescribing to me how to manage my world. And my father probably thought I was spoiled rotten because I had a bedroom to myself going up, you understand? And his world was different from mine. But I think those things about clarity of thought, discipline, work ethic, and how you interact with people, social skills are extremely important. If they have those, they will figure out this world, which I don't understand, a lot better than me.
So, you spoke about AI earlier, right? And my question to you is, what is one industry that you think that young people need to pay attention to, or maybe an emerging technology that you think that is so important?
Look, the obvious one is artificial intelligence. What's going to come very quickly thereafter is automation and robotics. But right now in Nigeria, the industry which I would be paying attention to if I wasn't so absorbed is power.
Oh, why is that?
I think we're at an inflection point for transformation on power in Nigeria. It's already happened in Pakistan. The reliability on the GenCos, DISCos for the power industry to distribute power to our homes, I think is going to disappear very quickly. And what's driving this? It's the cost of solar power specifically, and the cost has come down drastically. The productivity of solar panels has come up very drastically and is accelerating with the rare earth materials research that we're seeing out of China. So very soon, for 3-4 solar panels, 5-6 square meters of solar panels, you might be able to generate enough power to create 20 kilowatt hours of power, and that can run every home as long as you have not that much roof space anymore. That roof space that requires shrinking. And I think in terms of power to households across Nigeria, we're going to see a very rapid acceleration of those kind of solutions. There's still a question mark, okay, when it rains, but okay, there might be a few days off. If you have 90% power availability, it's a long way from where we are today. One of the big catalysts to that is going to be the ability for people on the lower income levels to afford the purchase of such systems, solar panels and batteries, and install them. But someone in the financial services industry is going to find that sweet spot, low cost of capital, to be able to loan to these people, manage the risk of their loans, and allow them to install power in their homes. And they have 90-95% power availability, which is going to increase productivity drastically. I think that is going to happen no matter what we do. It's coming, and it's going to come as a big wave. And the GenCos and distribution companies will have to focus a lot of their power generation on industrial uses.
Well, I will not have even thought that power would be, your answer, but that's quite interesting. And of course, AI, everybody's talking about it. And I think young people are already plugging into artificial intelligence anyways. So some fun questions, right? The first one would be, what would be something people will be surprised to know about you?
I'll tell you the first one. My actual first name is Olutokun. People that grew up with me know me as Tokun. Okay. How did Karl come about? Well, I was giving Karl at birth, make no mistake. But when I was working in the early part of my career in Europe, people just kept on mispronouncing Token. They were calling it Token and all sorts. So after some time, I said, you know what, let me just start using my middle name. But the people that grew up with me in Ifed actually know me as Token.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. What's the second one?
Second surprising thing, I'm not really sure. Thousands of them. Can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, let me ask you this way then. What are some of the unsealed things people will be surprised to know about you? That is just maybe Carl the son, Carl the father, something that's...
I'm an irritating father to my daughter, but I love her to bits, and we'll continue to irritate ourselves and love ourselves till kingdom come. I'm a very simple person. Someone said I need to invest in building my brand, and I said my brand is no brand. I don't care about my brand. I care about my results. So
Maybe you need to
I
open
know
an
how to.
Instagram account.
No, thank you.
On TikTok.
No, thank you. What else? No, so that's one thing that you know is that I have no interest in building my personal brand. I have an interest in achieving results in my job, and that's it. And
Well, to be fair, everybody knows you, though you are not on all of these platforms, so you're already famous. Do you know that you're famous?
well, it's very hard for me to walk through an airport or go to a restaurant without being greeted quite a number of times, and sometimes I really enjoy the anonymity of being outside of the country where nobody knows me.
What was your first job?
So I'll put it in two ways. I did my NYC in Shell in Port Harcourt. Okay. That was NYC. I was in the instrumentation department of Shell. Okay. And then subsequently, my first job after my master's degree was with Ericsson in telecommunications. I was a switch engineer, and I did my master's in communication system. So I'm a thoroughbred telco person. I've done telco for 30 years straight. And like I said, focus does do things. You do something consistently for 30 years, you generally would rise to the top of the career just through that consistency.
You've expertise in it.
Absolutely. And there are things that you know so instinctively. You don't even have to think. You know the right thing to do once you start in a new job, overseeing a new operation. It's so intuitive to you because you've done it so repetitively.
For like young people now, we don't want to, stay long in an industry or do the same thing over and over again. We like change. We like things to be different and all that. Does it get monotonous for you?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I'm also at some point in time going to approach my retirement age. And MTN Nigeria is so complex that there's no chance of monotony. But one day I'd like to step aside and do other things in the medium term future.
Okay. And so my next question, what are your hobbies? And do you have time for that?
I have one hobby, which I think people know. That's fishing, yes. I've actually developed another hobby, which I'm actually really enjoying, and that's playing paddle. Paddle is a ball and racket game that's a cross between a mixture of tennis and squash. And I just started 2 months ago, and I'm very addicted to it. I don't enjoy exercising. I do it, but with paddle, I enjoy it. And because there's a bit of a competitive element, and so it makes it fun. And I don't feel like I'm straining myself at all.
Oh, okay. And it's a good way to move your body.
It's very effective exercise.
So, what is your favorite Nigerian dish?
That one is hard though. But I can definitely tell you that I know my favorite Nigerian buka is what we call amala polaris in Ibadan. Yes. And what's my favorite Nigerian dish? Well, there's a number of them. Pounded yam and egusi for sure. I eat pounded yam and okra, which some people say is a sacrilege. It's a sacrilege, but I absolutely love it. Seafood okra. So yeah, just generally around those.
What app do you use often on your phone, apart from work tools like Teams and Outlook and all that?
I'd say there's two. Obviously, my banking apps, that's one of them. And the other one is travel apps. When I say travel apps, whether it is my British Airways account or Expedia for booking hotels, because I move all the time, I think those are my most used apps. And then for my hobbies, there are 2 apps that I use for fishing during the fishing season.
Like, can you fish digitally or something?
No. It's more about checking the weather before you go out fishing. And there's something, the behavior of the fish is affected by the tides and the position of the moon. So we check that before we go out fishing, see if it's a good day or not.
Okay, so talking about fishing, please. When you catch the fish, you actually cook them and eat.
So it depends. There are fish that are endangered. We call them billfish, marlin, sailfish. We release. There are some fish that are good to eat that are not so endangered. We take my fishing friends and I, and we eat or we give to friends. So it's a mix.
So I want to ask you a question that most women get asked this question, and that is balance. How would you balance being CEO, being a father, being a husband, being somebody's son, being an uncle, being a brother, and all of that?
I think this is a tricky question because you have to make choices on what's most important to you. And if you look for perfect balance, it's very, I think it's impossible to achieve. You can't rise to the very top of your career and be perfectly balanced in your private life and in your corporate life. You have to sacrifice something. Something has to give. And having the right social circle around you, whether that's your husband, etc., can help you to create that balance. But I will tell you this, if you want to rise up in your career, you're going to spend more hours working and traveling and in the office than is ideal for a perfect family life. So you have to make a choice, and you have to also agree that choice with your partner. I try my best possible. I think my daughter was growing up. She's 25 years old now. I was present for every important event and holidays and everything else, but I also know that I should have spent more time with her, and something that I'm working on. But it's hard to get perfect balance. It's an utopia that doesn't exist.
I agree with you. I agree with you because it's not possible for you to divide your day and then give everything equal time. It's actually possible. Thank you so much. So, two good questions before we go, please. First of all, who would you like to see me interview next?
Surprise question.
Yeah.
I have to think about that deeply. I'm curious about InterSwitch. So the CEO of InterSwitch, Michele Legwe, that will be an interesting person. I know him. He's a friend, but he's built something. I think they're in the transition phase right now, but he built something that's quite incredible. That's one person. Barack Obama.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's
are you a
realistic.
fan of Barack Obama?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's one of the most admirable representations of a Black person that we've ever seen. Him, Nelson Mandela, and I'd say Lewis Hamilton as well. People that I have tremendous respect for with the way they've comported themselves flawlessly.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. And please tell them to subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Please subscribe to Hannah's YouTube channel. First of all, because she's an absolutely amazing, fascinating lady. Second, because she's an Omomodeke, she's from my village, okay? And we must support our own. And third, because she's very, very, very interesting. So please subscribe.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been such an honor sitting down service chat with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. You're satisfied?
Yes, I am. Thank you, everyone.